So for any non-hitched American gals out there, instead of saying things like, always the bridesmaid, never the bride, just move to Britain, you'll get a much better deal. Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to weddings. Under ordinary circumstances, we would now be right at the start of wedding season. For everything you're about to hear, just insert, they had a beautiful Zoom wedding, even if the bride turned up late due to connectivity issues. But assuming that everything blows over, as in the pandemic, not the gazebo, some of you probably know of a couple with plans to tie the knot. And in case they happen to be British and American, here are some things they should know. Our wedding traditions are not quite the same. To gain further insight, I myself married an American. That's not the reason I married her. I mean, there was genuine affection. And my wife was one of the lucky ones who married a majestic accent. Could the same happen to you? Thank you to datebritishguys.com for sponsoring this video. This year they are celebrating 10 years of transatlantic matchmaking. Is there a British fellow in your future? Follow the link in my description for more details. In the meantime, dust off your hat and have your speeches at the ready as we raise a glass and magnifying glass to 7 ways British and American weddings are very different. On either side of the pond, it's traditional for brides and/or grooms to indulge in debaucherous shenanigans in an effort to drunkenly conclude bachelor life. Except there are some crucial differences. In Britain, the bride attends what is known as her hen night, and the groom his stag night, another example of human zoomorphism that will be hard for aliens to understand. As might this, the hen night often consists of the bride and female friends getting wasted and laughing at naked butlers. Apparently this tradition has gained some traction in the US, where male strippers are occasionally hired in the absence of husbands-to-be. For the lads, it's all about the destination weekend. In Britain, stag nights have become stag weekends. The groom and his mates head off to Amsterdam, but definitely not because of the inhalable plant life and legalized brothels. In the US, such gatherings are called bachelor parties. The groom and his buddies head off to Nevada, but definitely not because see previous comment. Americans love hats. To this day, people in Texas still cite Yosemite Sam as their style icon, and the baseball cap continues to grace the heads of baseball players, normal Americans, and Vanilla Ice. But there's one occasion when Americans leave the hats at home: weddings. Coming from Britain, I thought this was notable. Back home there's a significant amount of crossover between how women dress for weddings and how they dress for ascot, except instead of betting on horses, they're betting on how long the marriage will last. And ever so occasionally, British men, usually the groomsmen, will don top hats. This is less of a tradition in America, where wedding hats aren't a big part of the cultural landscape. To be fair to Americans though, top hats went out of fashion stateside before the war, whereas in Britain it's still illegal for babies to be born without them. When leaving the maternity ward, we even get a complimentary monocle and brolly. Here's a scenario. A friend of a friend is getting married. You wait nervously to see whether or not you're invited. Months go by. Nothing. Finally, you hear from your friend your worst fears have come true. You made it onto the guest list. But in Britain, there is a compromise. It's possible that you might be invited to the wedding ceremony and meal, but not the after party, admittedly the best bit. You see, we Brits sometimes operate on a 2-tiered guest list. Those in Tier 1 receive invites for the whole shebang. Those in Tier 2 get to go home in time for Doctor Who. So if you can't get out of the actual wedding, Tier 2 is the next best thing. For newlyweds, the reason for the tier system is twofold. 1, it helps couples cut costs. And 2, it's a handy way of keeping out the weird uncles and reducing police complaints. In the US, the general practice is to allow all of the same people to attend the entire event. Mum, dad, occasionally Tom Hanks. But think about all of the weird uncles. Actually, no, scratch that. Think about all of the bridesmaids. Somebody please think of the bridesmaids. In fact, let's do that very thing. On either side of the pond, if your wedding has bridesmaids, there will probably be between 400 and 600 of them. They are normally chosen from sisters, high school friends, and that cousin who wouldn't stop asking, "Have you picked your maid of honour yet?" But Brits and Americans have different customs in this department too. First of all, in America, bridesmaids are almost always expected to pay for their own dresses, making bridal parties the 5th largest pyramid scheme in America. In Britain, the cost of dresses will often be covered by whoever is paying for the wedding, and the maid of honour might not be called the maid of honour, but the chief bridesmaid. And what Americans call groomsmen, the British call ushers, and to be clear, that's not several clones of R&B recording artist Usher. Those are reserved for the DJ's playlist. But before we get to the after party, there's the small matter of the wedding ceremony itself. Here comes the bride, signing into Skype. But 3 months ago, when weddings happened in person, the bride would be the last person to enter the room. At least in America, where she is normally preceded by the bridal party. Think of it as the main event after the supporting act. It's the Stones opening for Prince, the Monkees opening for Hendrix, or Good Mythical Morning opening for Lost in the Pond.
Lost in the Pond. Let's take a look at what Lawrence has to say.
In Britain, this is traditionally flipped. Not only do bridesmaids get a free dress, they also get to enter last. So for any non-hitched American gals out there, instead of saying things like, always the bridesmaid, never the bride, just move to Britain, you'll get a much better deal. Ultimately, of course, all eyes will be on the bride. Well, almost all. Things that both countries consider bad luck. Black cats, walking under ladders, and seeing the bride before the wedding day. But on that last one, Brits and Americans adopt slightly different rules, proving once more that superstitions are grounded in rock-solid science. In America, it's traditional for the groom to see the bride once Daydream Believer is over, or once the bridesmaids have sat down. That's when the bride walks down the aisle. She's ravishing, so the groom adopts an expression indicating as much, even as the half-remembered words "last night" and "Monica's massage parlour" enter his head. In Britain, the groom traditionally faces away from the bride until she's standing beside him. This is useful because it helps him to stiffen his upper lip while no one's watching. Finally, as they stand face to face and say their vows, all of that good work comes undone in a momentary undignified wobble. Time for a stiff drink. For me, this is the real main event. The Stones and Prince have left the building, if not the DJ's playlist, and it's time to hit the dance floor. And if you're anything like me, this cannot be done before you've quaffed at least 3 pints of Carlsberg. This is where the nighttime bar comes in. In Britain, and this might cause a few American gasps, this is normally a cash bar. That means guests are expected to pay for their own drinks, making wedding dinners the 5th largest pyramid scheme in Britain. I suppose you've got to pay for those dresses somehow. In America, since those dresses aren't included in the budget, the remaining money goes to funding an open bar. This accounts for why I have absolutely no memory of my sister-in-law's wedding. That's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below if you know any British-American couples, and don't forget to share this video with them. For more of my words, be sure to follow me on Twitter at LostInThePondUS, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that my videos don't get lost in the pond. And a big thank you once more to DateBritishGuys.com for sponsoring this video. Again, you can click on the link in my description. And of course, thank you to my patrons for making this video possible. Become a patron today at patreon.com/lostinthepond, and there you will receive access to my secret live streams. And we're live.
I think it looks pretty dapper.
You think it looks pretty dapper? Do you think I look pretty dapper? I don't right now.
You look lovely.
Do I?
Yeah.
That's kind.
I like you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.